Welcome back to Odd Occasions, where we dive deep into the strange, the fascinating, and the downright unbelievable. Today, we're taking a look at 10 real-life criminals who are considered heroes by the public. Despite their illegal actions, these figures have captured imaginations worldwide. Whether it's through defiance, redemption, or sheer audacity, they've blurred the line between villain and hero. So buckle up, because these stories will make you rethink what it means to be a hero. Let's get started. Number 10. D.B. Cooper. In 1971, a man using the alias Dan Cooper carried out one of the most legendary heists in history when he hijacked a commercial airliner, claiming to have a homemade bomb. His demands were simple but daring: $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes. Once the plane landed in Seattle, his requests were granted, and he allowed the passengers to disembark. With the remaining crew on board, Cooper directed the plane to fly toward Mexico City at a low altitude. But somewhere over the Lewis River in Oregon, Cooper did the unthinkable. He strapped on a parachute, grabbed the money, and jumped out of the plane, disappearing into the night. Despite an extensive manhunt, no one has ever seen or heard from him again. In 1980, a portion of the ransom money was discovered 40 miles downstream from where Cooper was believed to have landed, but the mystery of what happened to him remains unsolved. Over the years, D.B. Cooper has become a folk hero. Some believe he lived out the rest of his days on a tropical island, sipping margaritas. Others suspect he didn't survive the jump. Regardless, his audacious crime, executed with no casualties, has left a lasting legacy that continues to fascinate and inspire. Number 9. Attila Ambrus. Attila Ambrus earned the nickname the Hungarian Robin Hood for his series of daring bank heists across Hungary in the 1990s. Originally from Romania, Ambrus crossed the border into Hungary in 1988, making the journey hidden beneath a freight train. Fleeing a past of petty crimes in Romania, Ambrus sought asylum and eventually settled into Hungarian life, taking on various odd jobs, including being a gravedigger and even a professional hockey player. From 1993 to 1999, Ambrus carried out 29 robberies targeting post offices, banks, and travel agencies. Despite keeping the stolen money for himself, the public admired his audacity and charm, dubbing him the Hungarian Robin Hood. Another nickname, the Gentleman Bandit, reflected his polite and respectful manner during his heists. He never harmed anyone and was always courteous to the bank tellers and workers he encountered. Ambrus's charisma and skill at eluding capture made him a folk hero, but his luck eventually ran out. He was arrested in 1999 but managed a daring escape shortly after. However, he was later recaptured and is currently serving his sentence in a maximum security prison in Szatyraljaújhely, Hungary. Number 8. Ralph Bucky Phillips. In 2006, Ralph Bucky Phillips gained national infamy when he simultaneously landed on both the FBI's 10 Most Wanted Fugitives list and the United States Marshal Service's Top 15 list. Phillips, who had a long history of petty crimes, became a folk hero during a months-long manhunt that stretched from April to September 2006. His escape from Erie County Jail while serving time for a parole violation was the beginning of an extraordinary run from the law. Phillips managed to evade capture for 5 months, despite being relentlessly pursued by law enforcement. His ability to stay one step ahead of authorities garnered him widespread attention, especially in his local community. During the manhunt, local shops began selling Bucky t-shirts with slogans like "Where's Bucky?" and "Run, Bucky, run." A local restaurant even added a Bucky burger to its menu, packaged in a to-go box for those who wanted to stay on the move. Much like Phillips himself. The search reached its climax during the summer of 2006, but Phillips' notoriety took a darker turn when he fatally shot one police officer and wounded 2 others in 2 separate incidents. His violent actions shocked those who initially saw him as a clever outlaw, but it didn't stop many from continuing to see him as a symbol of defiance against authority. On September 8, 2006, Phillips was finally apprehended. Later that year, on November 29th, he pled guilty as hell to a series of charges, including aggravated murder. He is now serving consecutive life sentences at the Upstate Correctional Facility in Malone, New York. Number 7. John Dillinger. During the 1930s, John Dillinger was often compared to a modern-day Robin Hood. Though his criminal activities began in his youth, it wasn't until he turned 30 that he committed his first bank robbery. The Great Depression was a time of immense hardship, and many people viewed Dillinger as a man who took on corrupt institutions, especially banks, at a time when honest work barely paid a livable wage. Dillinger's gang became infamous for their bold bank heists. In 1933, Dillinger was arrested during a robbery, but his daring escape from prison, along with subsequent crimes, elevated him to folk hero status. Although he and his gang were responsible for multiple robberies, some of the stolen money made its way back to ordinary people. A small gesture during a time when even the slightest bit of financial help could make a difference. This act of giving, combined with the economic struggles of the time, won him a degree of public support, especially in small communities where witnesses often refused to help law enforcement. Dillinger's reputation as public enemy number 1 made him a legend. Newsreels showcasing Dillinger and his gang were shown in movie theaters by the Department of Investigation, which would later become the FBI. However, instead of demonizing the criminals, the public often cheered for Dillinger and booed the special agents. In the eyes of many, Dillinger symbolized defiance against a system that had failed to provide for its people during the Depression. In 1934, Dillinger was shot and killed by DOI agents outside the Biograph Theater in Chicago, Illinois, just over a year after his first major bank heist. His death, viewed by some as the result of an overzealous government, only added to the sympathy he garnered from the general population. Many people saw him as a man who had successfully outwitted the authorities and lived on his own terms, if only for a short while. Number 6. Gregorio Cortez. Gregorio Cortez, born on June 22, 1875 in Tamaulipas, Mexico, became a folk hero along the Rio Grande border for his bold defiance against law enforcement. In June 1901, a confrontation between Cortez and Sheriff W.T. Morris led to the sheriff's death. Following the incident, Cortez fled, sparking one of the largest manhunts in U.S. history at the time. The pursuit lasted several weeks, until authorities finally captured Cortez at the end of June, charging him with the murder of 2 sheriffs. The initial altercation that led to the confrontation with Morris stemmed from a misunderstanding during an investigation about horse theft, a crime Cortez denied committing. Despite his claims of innocence, Cortez was convicted of several offenses, including the theft of a horse. However, his ability to evade capture and his impassioned defense during his trial earned him the admiration of the communities along the Rio Grande, who saw him as a symbol of resistance. Cortez's legacy was cemented by the corrido, Mexican folk ballad, Corrido de Gregorio Cortez, which immortalized his bravery and the injustice he faced. His story was further popularized by the 1982 film The Ballad of Gregorio Cortez, starring Edward James Olmos. Despite being sentenced to 50 years in prison for horse theft, Cortez was pardoned by Texas Governor Oscar Colquitt in 1913. Cortez passed away on February 28, 1916, under mysterious circumstances, and the true cause of his death remains a topic of debate to this day. For many, Gregorio Cortez remains a symbol of a common man fighting against the oppression and persecution from both the American and Mexican governments, admired for his defiance and resilience. Number 5. Billy Miner. Billy Miner, born Ezra Allen Miner in 1847 in Kentucky, earned the nickname the Gentleman Robber due to his polite and courteous manner while carrying out stagecoach robberies. Some even credit him with coining the famous phrase, "hands up." Miner's reputation as a charming outlaw endeared him to many, though he was no stranger to prison. In 1881, he was sentenced to 25 years in a California state prison, serving 21 years before being released in 1902. By the time Miner was freed, stagecoaches were nearly obsolete, so he transitioned to robbing railroads. Despite his criminal activities, Miner reportedly gave strict orders that no one was to be killed during a robbery, even in self-defense. His legendary status grew, with stories circulating that he once used his stolen money to pay off a widow's mortgage, only to embezzle it from an uncaring bank. This Robin Hood-like act only increased his popularity among the public. Miner lived in Kamloops, British Columbia, for 18 months under the alias George Edwards, where he was well liked by the community, who had no idea of his criminal past. However, law enforcement never stopped searching for him. Miner was eventually caught by authorities and sentenced to life in prison at the British Columbia Penitentiary. Throughout his time in prison, Miner became famous for his multiple escape attempts, though he was always recaptured. In 1913, he passed away in prison, shortly after his final escape and subsequent capture. His legacy as the gentleman robber lives on, remembered as a thief with a code of honor who, despite his criminal activities, earned a unique place in the hearts of many. Number 4. Frank Abagnale. Frank Abagnale became one of the most notorious con artists in history by the age of 21, and his incredible story inspired the hit movie Catch Me If You Can. Abagnale's criminal career began when he was just 16 years old, forging checks and assuming false identities to pull off elaborate scams. By the time he was 21, he had cashed phony checks worth more than $2 million across multiple countries. His ability to impersonate professionals, including a pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer, showcased his unparalleled skill in deception. In 1971, Abagnale was finally apprehended, but his story took an unexpected turn. The FBI offered him an early release from prison just 1 year into his 12-year sentence, in exchange for his expertise in helping them capture other con artists. However, even after working with the FBI, Abagnale continued to engage in fraud, including posing as an airline pilot to run more schemes. Despite his seemingly instinctive need to lie, cheat, and steal, Abagnale eventually decided to leave his life of crime behind. He went on to become one of the world's foremost experts on document fraud, check forgery, and embezzlement. Over the next 30 years, he worked as a consultant for the FBI, helping to catch criminals who used the same tactics he once employed. Today, Abagnale runs his own fraud consulting company, which has provided services to over 14,000 businesses worldwide. Abagnale's story of redemption has captivated the public, transforming him from a notorious con artist into an unlikely hero in the eyes of many. His expertise in fraud prevention has made him a respected figure, and his life story continues to serve as both a cautionary tale and an example of personal reinvention. Number 3. Georgia Durante. Georgia Durante has lived one of the most extraordinary and multifaceted lives in modern American history. Starting her career as a model at the age of 12, Durante rose to fame as the iconic Kodak Girl by 17. However, beneath the glamorous exterior, her life was filled with turmoil and hardship. By her 20s, she had survived a rape, been caught up in a mob fight, and endured an abusive marriage. Her second marriage plunged her even deeper into the criminal world, as she became a getaway driver for the mob. Durante's skills behind the wheel were unparalleled, making her invaluable to the organization. However, after the birth of her daughter, she made a life-changing decision to escape the criminal underworld and move to Los Angeles. There, she transformed her life yet again, becoming one of the most successful commercial stunt drivers in the industry. Durante went on to establish her own stunt firm, contributing to the production of over 100 films. Beyond her impressive stunt work, she is now known for her advocacy efforts, sharing her harrowing experiences with domestic violence through public speaking engagements across the country. She also authored an autobiography, The Company, in which she recounts her remarkable journey from mob life to stunt driving and survival. For many women who have faced domestic abuse, Durante has become a symbol of strength and resilience. Her ability to overcome the darkest moments of her life and build a new one has made her a hero in the eyes of those who see her as a source of empowerment. Number 2. Kweisi Mfume. Kweisi Mfume is a well-known figure in U.S. politics, currently serving as a member of the House of Representatives, and previously holding roles such as President and CEO of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. However, before his rise to prominence, Mfume had a troubled past marked by brushes with the law. Growing up in Baltimore, Mfume faced many hardships. After the death of his mother, speculation suggests that he became involved with local gangs. While he did not pursue a career in crime like others on this list, he did have multiple encounters with law enforcement, admitting in his 1996 autobiography, No Free Ride, that he had been locked up several times under suspicion of theft. Despite these early challenges, Mfume turned his life around and became a respected leader. His journey from troubled youth to political leader has made him a hero for many, especially young people in Baltimore who live in poverty. Mfume's story serves as a powerful example of redemption, showing that it is possible to rise above difficult circumstances and make a lasting impact on society. Number 1. Junior Johnson. Born in 1931, Robert Glenn Johnson Jr., better known as Junior Johnson, grew up in a bootlegging family during the Prohibition era. While he is celebrated as a NASCAR legend today, his early life was deeply intertwined with the illegal business of transporting moonshine. Johnson's skill behind the wheel was honed while outrunning law enforcement during his family's bootlegging operations, leading to him spending a significant portion of his early life behind bars. In 1986, while serving his sentence, President Ronald Reagan granted him a pardon, symbolizing his shift from criminal to folk hero. Johnson wasn't just a skilled driver. He was also an automobile pioneer. His development of the drafting technique, where cars follow closely to reduce wind resistance, revolutionized the sport. He famously used this method to win the Daytona 500 in 1960. Despite never winning a championship, Johnson retired in 1966 with 50 Grand National victories, making him one of the most successful drivers in NASCAR history. Beyond his racing accolades, Johnson became a cultural icon, immortalized by Tom Wolfe in the 1965 essay, The Last American Hero is Junior Johnson. Wolfe's portrayal cemented Johnson's legacy as a bridge between NASCAR's moonshine-fueled origins and its modern-day success. Johnson remained a beloved figure in the sport and in the hearts of thousands of NASCAR fans until his death in 2019 at the age of 88. And there you have it, 10 criminals who, for better or worse, became folk heroes in the eyes of the public. Whether it was through their charm, courage, or sheer defiance, these figures left a lasting impression on the world. But remember, while their stories may be legendary, their actions came with real consequences. What do you think? Are these criminals worthy of their hero status, or were they simply outlaws who got lucky with public opinion? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our deep dives into the world's most twisted tales. This is Odd Occasions, where we bring the shadows into the spotlight. See you next time.